Well, the US House of Representatives has passed a resolution that calls a UN-backed Gaza war crimes report, quote, irredeemably biased. Largely a symbolic gesture, the non-binding vote urges the Obama administration to oppose any endorsement of Judge Richard Goldstone's findings. The UN General Assembly will debate the report on Wednesday. Goldstone's report accuses both Israel and Palestinian armed groups of committing violations of international humanitarian law during the war on Gaza. It calls on Israel and Hamas, which rules the Gaza Strip, to carry out independent investigations into alleged abuses. If that doesn't happen, the UN fact-finding mission calls on the Security Council to refer the case to the International Criminal Court for possible war crimes prosecutions. Goldstone's critics in the US Congress say his original mandate was one-sided and only focused on Israel's actions. Goldstone, though, has repeatedly pointed out that the mandate was changed to include violations allegedly committed by Palestinians. Ahead of Tuesday's vote, he wrote a letter to the House of Representatives criticizing the text of the resolution. He said, quote, I have strong reservations about the text of the resolution in question, text that includes serious factual inaccuracies and instances where information and statements are taken grossly out of context. He continues, quote, the allegation that Hamas was able to shape the findings of my report or that it pre-screened the witnesses is devoid of truth. I challenge anyone to produce evidence in support of it. In response, the resolution's text was slightly amended, but its message remained the same. Earlier, I spoke to Democratic Congressman Baird. He said the congressional resolution simply does not correctly represent the Goldstone report.
You know, the resolution itself, I don't think accurately characterizes the Goldstone report itself. It certainly doesn't accurately characterize, nor does it really attempt to characterize the reality on the ground and the devastation and death that occurred there. Nor does it speak at all to the suffering of the Palestinian people or what needs to happen to try to move this situation forward. And I'm concerned not only about that, but about the general issue of what we can do proactively to try to get more relief to the people in need in Gaza immediately, and what we can do to try to move the peace process forward, and that includes, in my judgment, cessation of settlement expansion and moving towards real progress on the ground, tangible progress.
And Al Jazeera also spoke with one member of Congress who's supporting the resolution. Steve Rothman criticized Goldstone's report as one-sided, and he said it doesn't give enough attention to the violations committed by the Palestinians.
Well, firstly, the Goldstone report was biased from the very beginning. The instructions to the Goldstone Commission were biased, and so the result was biased. The bottom line here is that we want peace between the Israelis and the Palestinians and the greater Arab world. We want a better life for the Palestinian people and for the Israeli people. And to continue to talk about a report which is biased and one-sided does not help. Let's get the parties to the negotiating table, create two states, the Jewish state of Israel, a contiguous, strong state of Palestine, and get these people a better life.
I mean, it's that sort of point, that starting point then, that the original mandate was biased, is one that many take issue with, including Judge Richard Goldstone, who sent a letter to those proposing the resolution, because he says that's simply not true. He insisted on an expanded mandate, and it now includes all violations of human rights, whether they be Palestinian or Israeli.
Well, you know, let me try to use this metaphor. The house is on fire. Now, we can either talk about what equipment would be best to have purchased, or we can put the fire out. The house is on fire. People are going to be suffering and dying in Palestine.
I'm not entirely sure about that metaphor, but I'm making quite a sort of clear-cut statement that the mandate is no longer biased. Judge Goldstone said the original mandate was biased, and he demanded it be expanded to include Palestinian rocket fire, and he got that. So the mandate is no longer biased.
Well, you asked me why the United States Congress is voting to disregard this so-called report and opinion, which I've read.
Subsequently, I asked you specifically about this argument, though, that the mandate was biased. Judge Goldstone changed the mandate for his report.
I believe that the changed mandate was also biased. Judge Goldstone and I can disagree, and we do disagree on this. All
violations of international human rights law and international humanitarian law, that's everyone. How's that biased? That includes everyone.
Yes, but the report was written not to talk about 12,000 rockets intentionally sent by Hamas to slaughter Israeli men, women, and children versus the Israelis trying in many, many respects to minimize the damage to innocent Palestinian civilians.
Right,
So
and
there are
that's again,
completely
Judge Richard
different
Goldstone
standards
says, well, that's
applied.
inaccurate too, because Chapter 24 considers in detail the rocket fire into Israel. The resolution that you support is inaccurate when it says it does not consider them. There are pages and pages considering rocket fire into Israel. It does, again, lead to that question, has anyone actually read this report on Capitol Hill who is supporting this resolution?
Yes, and the portion with regards to the 12,000 rockets sent by Hamas to kill Israeli civilians intentionally is a very small portion of the report compared to the overwhelming majority of the report claiming some violations of international law by the Israelis.